Leavenworth, Washington is known for lights, especially Christmas lights. One of the biggest places people go to see these lights is this park. But one day, it went dark. Leavenworth was headed toward natural disaster. On December 10th, the town was hit with historic windstorms. Powerful downslope winds caused massive tree damage and power outages. Heavy rains caused liquefaction, basically meaning the ground had become liquid and there was nothing for the roots to hold on to. Residents awoke December 11th to major flooding, downed trees, and boulder obstructions. Highway 2 by Tumwater, shown here, was closed and received extensive damage. Further, a 49-mile section of highway between Skykomish and Leavenworth was shut down, blocking access to Stevens Pass. A bit past Skykomish, Index was affected as well, with a portion of Index Galena Road closed. The North Fork Skykomish River changed its course near Index due to the flooding, shifting the main channel from what used to be a small back channel. With the electricity down in all of Leavenworth, meaning the world-famous lights of Christmastown, USA, downtown were out, media swarmed, and people across the state and country wondered, how long would the lights be off? And what is with all this crazy footage I see on TV?
In Chelan County, the Wenatchee River surged.
Nearly 4,000 buildings remain without power in the Leavenworth area this morning, and that is down from more than 11,000.
Impact of flooding and heavy rainfall this week along Highway 2.
I saw people questioning whether or not the images from Leavenworth with the highway being washed out was even real.
Instead of being filled to the brim with people during one of the busiest times of year, Leavenworth was a ghost town, and it later became clear that some of the media portrayals by outside media would haunt the people of Leavenworth. This is the story of a new dawn. This is a film of the local story from December until now. This is the day the Christmas lights stopped. For some, losses were immense, like a home being flooded during the disasters.
My name's Christina Arroyo, and I live here with my family, Lane Etheridge, and our daughter Jordan. She's a little 16 months old, and we live here with our his grandma on great-grandma's property, and we rent from great-grandma. It's been in the family since his great-great-great-grandparents.
That's
At
crazy.
least.
What? That's
yeah.
so crazy.
And his great-great-grandparents built this house, and then our house that we lived in was built by his grandpa.
Christina met her husband at Kashmir High School.
We had Marines recruiters that week, and it was a Wednesday, and they were doing like, oh, if you do X amount of pull-ups, and you can get a t-shirt. If you do X amount of pull-ups, you get a tote bag. And he did that. He did X amount of pull-ups, and he won a t-shirt. And
You were impressed.
I was impressed. I was watching it, and I'm like,
what?
I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah, that's real.
And that was his senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a sophomore, and I'm like asking people, like, do you guys know who that guy is? Everyone's like, I don't know who that is. And eventually I asked a different friend. He's like, I know who that is. I was like, who's that? And he goes, his name's Lane. I'm like, I've never met Lane, who's a senior. And he's like, yeah, his name's Lane. I'm not going to tell you anything else. I'm like, well, do you have like his number or something? His Instagram? He's like, I'm not going to give it to you. And I was like, it's okay. I'll figure it out on my own. I did. I figured it out on my own.
Far later, on December 10th, 2025, the two weathered storms together.
I was in the shower when what happened was I was in the shower getting ready to drive up the road. I have like a mama's helper gig. I help a family up there the summers.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I in the shower, and Lane's grandma gives me a call, and she's just crying. She's devastated, and I'm like, oh no, what's going on? and she tells me, a flood's coming. What, Grandma? A flood's coming. And she's just bawling her eyes out. She said, the neighbor just called me, Don and Mary, they just called me and they told me that the flood's coming and it's gonna be like 2006 or possibly worse than that flood. And Grandma had gotten out of a surgery. She got a big surgery done November 24th. And so she's recovering. There was very little she could do, like huge surgery. It was a hysterectomy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, she's devastated and she can't do anything. She can't like prepare for a flood, you know? So she's calling us. She's like, I need you guys to come and help me. And like, we got to get the basement, like everything in the basement needs to be lifted up so it doesn't get like water. And then we got to get everything up in the cottage. And let me call some cousins, see if they can come and help. Let me call your mom, see if she's able to help. And I call my boss, tell him I'm not coming up today. Grandma just told me a flood's coming. And I remember feeling silly. Being like, I'm like, what do you mean a flood's coming? I've never been through a natural disaster in my life. Never been through something like that. I didn't know what to expect. We didn't prepare for something like that. We should have run into the cottage. We already had a leaking problem with the roof because of the storm. So we run into the cottage and we're trying to like get things put up without moving the bowl that's catching the water from the rain already. And like our shelves, our food shelves in there were on the floor. So it's like under cabinets. So we're like trying to get all of our stuff up, everything up. And there wasn't a lot of places to put things up. Like I said, it wasn't really designed for that. Afterwards, we're like, okay, we think everything's safe enough.
Yeah.
So we go to Wenatchee so we can patch the roof because we didn't want more leaking to happen on top of a flood.
By the time they got home, everything had changed. It was obvious what was happening.
So we leave and we're coming back and I'm just like shocked. There's lights are out, power went out. We enter our house and it is freezing. The house is made of concrete, so it's freezing in there after the power went out. It had been out for maybe 3 hours before we got back home from Wenatchee. We touch our bed and we have a Tempur-Pedic mattress topper on it, and we touch our bed and it's rock hard.
After the flooding had run its course, so first there was water damage to grandmother's basement, and then later the water damage spread to the cottage.
Because it's flooded. This entire road is just filled up with water. You couldn't walk from this house down to there. We had to canoe. We like I think I sent you a picture of Lane in the kayak, having to kayak, and he tried to like get him through the window so he can pull out a few things, like just try to pull out a few things, and that's what he had to do. He had to open the window up and climb in, like going in the kayak from here down. And we had to kayak. We helped our neighbors back here because they live in Tacoma.
One precious item that Christina lost during the flooding was a letter she wrote to her older self.
For that, it was about like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? So then in 10 years, you're supposed to read it and compare it to where you are now. And it's gone now, so I can't compare it, but
yeah. Besides gutting the cottage and affecting the basement, the whole property was flooded.
And when we woke up on the 11th, this field had started to flood, and there was like, I don't know, maybe 6 inches of water, 4 inches of water. You could see water like over where our chicken coop now is. There was water just, you saw it starting to happen. We went to bed and we woke up and we're like, okay, this really is happening. It's starting. And it was like 9 in the morning, I think. And it just slowly kept going from there. And there wasn't really anything we could do anymore. We tried, we prepared as much as we could. And it just slowly started happening from there.
As the disasters continued, Christina was acutely aware of how it affected her daughter.
And then like, I'm holding my daughter and I'm like, she has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't realize we don't have our house. I think by the 12th is when water started getting in the house, or maybe it was the evening of the 11th.
But luckily, Christina's extended family was there to help support them.
Kind of they came and brought candles, and they brought Panda Express, so we didn't have to worry about dinner, because we're like, what are we even gonna like eat all of our like
Probably never so happy to see Panda Express in your life.
So we had Panda Express, and great grandma brought diapers and wipes for Jordan, which was so amazing, because we had 2 days before the flood, we bought packs of big boxes of wipes from Target, and then all of that was flooded and has flood water in it, so you can't use those anymore. And they brought diapers and wipes and just helped us and like helped calm us, and then they went home.
Outside of her family, Christina saw the power of community in other ways, like a taco truck being set up shortly after the storms to help feed people, or her helping neighbors out that she didn't know well. Just overall, lots of instances of community coming together. Besides Grandma's home and the nearby cottage they were living in, there was other damage to the property.
Some more damage was, we have a barn out here, this white brick barn.
Yeah.
All the pressure and weight of the water against it was shifting everything. So those bricks are falling out in the back, and that entire building has to be condemned. An entire building has to be condemned. And so for Grandma, that's really hard, because it's like, that's one of the that's one of the things that her husband built, you know? And it's like, you've already lost so much, now you're also losing buildings that your husband built. That's something he put his time in, that's something he put his love into. And now it's gonna be gone. And
because of the disasters, so much of Christina's time was spent cleaning up, and so many plans were upended.
Now all your finances are going to this flood that just happened.
Yeah.
You can't, like, it was like no longer in your hands. Your plans are no longer in your hands, you know? God's making new plans, and that's just how it is.
Everything in the cottage ended up being molded. A little shed that held garden tools, the door flew off. A Kubota tractor was damaged. There was so much just damage that was done to the property. It took appraisers a while to come and assess the cottage, because it was delayed by snow. They didn't want to go over the passes, and insurance said to not touch anything until it was appraised. Great-grandma had gone through a flood where they were at, so she reassured that it would be okay. There was home insurance, renter's insurance, and flood insurance that was current on the property at the time of the flood. Throughout all of this, Christina's faith, which was actually newfound, helped keep her going and get through everything that was happening.
It has helped me. I don't know what I would do without my faith. It's been a recent thing. I wasn't always following Jesus Christ, but it's something I found, and just seeing like our church being so helpful and talking to God every day, and like just trusting in Him that it's happening for a reason, and trusting in Him that like it's all gonna work out.
Part of the long-term plan has been going away from sleeping nearby at Grandma's house every day, and instead setting up a tent on the property to be at, to have their own space at night.
But we set up the tent a month ago. This is like beginning of March, or middle March. We set up a tent, a big bell tent. It's a yurt tent. And we set up our bed in there, and we're like, we're gonna sleep in the tent now, because I have eczema, chronic eczema, and Grandma's got cats, and it flared my skin up so bad. On top of that, like, they'd come into the bedroom and lay on our beds, and so then all this cat hair is on my bed, and I'd get so itchy. I'd be up all night scratching. In the future, that's what we'll continue to do. We'll continue to be in the tent at night up here during the day, be with grandma, and then at night we have our own bedroom. So the tent is kind of like our bedroom, is how we're utilizing it the last month.
Yeah.
So we go down and we'd sleep at night, and it was really nice because it was great for Jordan. It helped her like with a routine. She knew, oh, when we're going outside at night and we're walking towards the tent, that means it's bedtime. And she slept so well. It was amazing. Last night was our first night not sleeping in the tent since a month ago, and she had trouble falling asleep. Like, she was pretty fussy. It was confusing. She was getting used to sleeping in the tent at night, and she was sleeping so great. And we'd wake up early because it's like all the sunshine's coming in. It was so nice. And
At the time of the April interview, Christina expected construction for the cottage to begin within a few weeks, providing permitting was approved. From there, it would take the contractor 3 to 4 months to finish everything for their home. At one point, her husband Lane found baby clothes that didn't fit Jordan anymore. So to recoup money from the disaster, Christina posted the clothes on Facebook Marketplace, mentioning that she had to meet in public due to the floods.
I met her in Safeway, and like I said, it was $35, right?
Yeah.
And she, like, as she was driving from Wenatchee with her husband to Leavenworth, she's telling me, you know, I'm so sorry that you lost everything. I went through a house fire a couple years ago. I know what that feels like, to lose everything. And she's like, I just want to tell you, like, it's stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Everything can be replaced. It's stuff. There's going to be sentimental things, but just try to keep that in your mind. It's just stuff.
Yeah.
And she asked me, like, do you guys need anything? Is there anything we can pick up for you while we're in Wenatchee? Which was really nice. Complete stranger. I had no idea who she was. And she's asking me if she or her husband could pick stuff up for us that we need if we can't make it to Wenatchee. So I meet her at Safeway, and I pass the bag of clothes, and she passes me $100 bill.
Aww, that's
And
very nice of her.
I look at her, I say, I don't have change. And she goes, that's for you guys. She said, you guys just went through something traumatic. Go out for dinner, go anything you need, like, get it for yourself. And I look at her and said, I can't accept this. And she said, yes, you can. You can. She said, this is what I needed when I went through something like this. And I just started crying. Like, I had no other response. I just started crying. This wonderful woman, I had no idea who she was. Complete stranger. And I started crying. I give her a hug. And I thank her. And I was just so, like, in disbelief. I was not expecting that at all. And it was just so kind. Like,
I was then and still am grateful for Christina for her interview, and I wish her all the best going forward. Lake Wenatchee is the second home to a certain manager who had a big role, along with her great team, in keeping people safe during the storms.
My name is Michelle Nicholson. I am Route 9 bus driver here. I just started in October.
I'm Andrea Skolstead, the Transportation Director at the Cascade School District.
The two explained to me what it was like driving kids home on the school bus during the natural disasters.
And whatnot. You know, like a spot on my route that got pretty close to going over the road, and that would close actually the whole highway. So Blewett Pass is the route that I go on. So, you know, you're just thinking about how do you get these kids home if you got a whole highway? Because at that point you have parents
Underwater.
going underwater. So at that point your back roads are your next options, and that's kind of hard in a bus.
Andrea explained how terrifying the initial windstorm was, and that you really couldn't understand what it was like unless you were there.
They called it a bomb cyclone because it was so localized, and there were officially winds clocked between 80 and 100 miles an hour. Unofficial wind, what are those called that measure wind? Whatever the instrument is that measures wind, there's several people who work for the district that have those at their houses. One of our drivers whose roof was completely ripped off his house.
Wow.
The winds up Fox Canyon, he had 140-mile-an-hour gusts up there, and down trees everywhere.
Yeah.
Also, though, by the end of that afternoon, the river had already come up several feet, and all of us, because it's here, and the highways are along rivers, all of us were literally watching the water rise, because we drive between 2 and 5 o'clock, and so the rain had started up high. It wasn't raining in town yet, but the rivers were coming up, and we were literally watching the waters rise, and in at least 3 different places on bus routes, the water was coming over the road, and so that was very much in everyone's mind. When the rain started that night, from everybody's house, you could hear the rivers, you could hear trees falling, you could hear boulders crashing, and the hugest concern that next morning was where, like what Michelle mentioned, that not can we get kids to school, but can we get kids home once they're here, which is why that, and it was like already flooding and there was lots of roads underwater. That was also a huge factor in canceling school for the days that we did, because we needed to know we could get them home that night too.
But before the day's school was canceled, every kid had to get home safely on the school bus, which was quite a task with all of the obstructions in the road.
I heard Highway 2 was closed by Cray, so I ended up having to go North Road, which ended up having power lines down and trees down, so I ended up having to turn around. Luckily, I was in the perfect spot of
She's in a 40-foot bus this whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
Then North Road, when you gotta turn around in an orchard, you're kind of like, well, luckily we're at,
Does not seem a good place to turn around in a school bus.
I had to get out, I had to talk to somebody behind me and say, hey, traffic is slowly moving, but it's because, there's lines down, everybody's turning around. I gotta get this thing turned around. Do you mind just staying where you're at and just holding the traffic back so I can get parked, pulled into this orchard and turned around and back? And it's dark at this point too. So, I also had my little helper, my daughter, with me, and she's watching the back of the bus and going, yep, you got it, Mom, you're missing the trees, we're good.
Michelle said she realized how strong the community was, not just in those who helped to guide her bus home, but in all the kids she saw helping their parents out to clear things when she later drove her bus route to see if it was clear.
You can see them all out there helping their parents clear up brush and trees and stuff like that. And then when school did open up, the kids were getting on the bus telling all their stories and what tree might have smashed whose place. Or
I think what was difficult for all of us was that there were some days when it was still wet and warm and raining that like you'd be on the Chumstick and there were active landslides while you were on the bus. I think if anything was traumatic and traumatizing, it was that. Like, I just know for me driving it, because I drove a lot of those routes, you'd be driving the bus over Beaver Hill and like the hillside would start to move. Some damage on the bus routes was not revealed immediately, but later. And so like a month ago, David, who drives the East Leavenworth loop, on the morning route, drove by one of the bridges, and in the opposite lane there was not a pothole, like an enormous hole. And as he drove by, he reported it to dispatch. One thing many mentioned to me was preparedness for a natural disaster. I sat down with current Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison to talk about his agencies and interagency response to the flood and natural disasters at large. So before the historic flooding and windstorm last year, what disaster protocols and plan were in place for natural disasters in Leavenworth?
So our emergency management division, which is part of the sheriff's office, already does tabletop exercises yearly. We highlighted it here most recently on our social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook, but we also do comprehensive plans, and we just updated that plan every 5 years. We just had the new plans coming on this year, and those go through Stan Smoke, who's an employee, also former fire chief of the Wenatchee Valley here, that went through, did best played plans that you have for emergency management that aligns with Washington State's emergency management with how to respond to different events. Fires, of course, we're certainly well versed in that here within Chelan County and Douglas County. You also got floods and mudslides, but this is probably one of our largest flooding events that we've seen over the last, as I'm understanding, 20 to 25 years. But we were already ready to implement our plans. We, of course, went back through and reviewed, saw some areas that we'd like to approve, even though it's a new plan that we just implemented, and we'll continue to do so on that.
It isn't just police. Many agencies work together to be prepared.
They assist us. We train at times at High Angle Rope Rescue with the fire team, along with our Swiftwater team. Also trained with them. We've trained in the past with military units from Fort Lewis, but we have a good relationship with local fire, medics, EMS, and it just continues seamless operations moving forward. Nothing new for us.
While there's always room for improvements, like having had communicated a bit better regarding the chum stick, Morrison said that responding to disasters like this is par for the course for emergency management, so the flood did not change any major protocols. While the sheriff's office and related departments were following the weather forecast, it's impossible to fully predict how a disaster will hit, Morrison said.
Well, certainly we recognized the weather event that was coming in. We had resources available, but you really don't know the true impact and the magnitude of these kind of events until they hit. And of course, once they did, we responded quickly. Was really proud of our deputies. Again, we provide 24/7, 365-day-a-year service, but then when these kind of events break up, just like fires, you're really asking a ton out of the men and women in uniform. And as they always do, and we've seen over the last several years throughout the 125-year history of Chelan County Sheriff's Office, we rose to that challenge and we accepted it, did well, served our community, and of course there's areas we'd like to see us do better, but overall very proud of our team.
To provide a comprehensive response during the disasters, certain employees had to work overtime. Surrounding Leavenworth, Morrison said that the western flanks of the county, bordering Snohomish and King County, as well as Plain and Lake Wenatchee areas, received the brunt of the flooding, while Leavenworth was most affected by wind, even though it did have some flooding. Some of the most extensive damage in the county from the December 2025 natural disasters were in the Stehekin and Holden Village areas.
But of course, Holden Village and the road going up there, that's about a 12-mile long road. That's looking at about $20 million in damage overall that the U.S. Forest Service is going to have to deal with. And
the Forest Service did not respond with a timeline regarding repairs around the county at the time of press. In his time with CCSO since 2014, Morrison has always seen Chelan County residents band together.
I've never had any doubt with Chelan County's residents being able to come together, do what's for the greater good, work with each other, try to help out their neighbors.
Someone who appreciated greatly getting a lot of help from the community was Canucci Terranella, Executive Director of Wenatchee River Institute.
Well, it was a Wednesday, and it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The temperatures really started rising and the wind started coming up, and the first thing that happened on our campus was, as one of our staff was walking in the door, the wind blew the door out of her hands and slammed it into the plate glass window.
Yeah.
That was original to an older version of the river house. It shattered into about 1 million pieces, and I hopped up and went to start cleaning it up, and as we were cleaning up on the porch, we heard some trees crack and watched one tree come down and knock down a couple more, and things started getting dramatic. The power went out. That's about the time my son called me and told me he just watched the chicken coop roof fly by his window.
At your house?
At my house.
Yeah.
And so I left campus and we pretty much shut things down here as power was out, and went home and dealt with things there. Power was out across town, winds were blowing real hard, it got warmer and warmer. It was about this warm that night, and I ended up being woken up by a tenant who came to my house and said a tree just fell in their car. My family has a rental house in town. Yeah. And that house I rushed over to, and by the time I got there, one tree was on the cars and one tree was on the house, and family was displaced, and I did what I could to help that night, but the winds were still howling, and there was no hope of getting the roof dried in. So then I went and drove to WRI to see what was going on here, and as I pulled into the dark parking lot, there was what seemed like a wall of green. So many trees and branches were down around the parking lot, you couldn't see out of it. I couldn't see the red barn because of the branches and trees that were down. And then I drove by one of our staff's house and saw her and a couple other staff members working together find their cat, because her house had been crushed by a tree as well on the same block.
Oh my gosh.
So
Did they find the beautiful cat?
they did.
We support cats here.
Smokey the cat is okay.
Shout out to Smokey. Smokey's the real hero.
Yeah, Smokey was an inside cat until the house got busted into, and then Smokey was an outside cat for a while. Stressful for everyone.
Stressful for sure. Yeah, it definitely upended people's lives in Leavenworth. And then, so, like, for the flooding, I don't know if, because, like, you can't really see it from the camera view, but over here, there's, like, a bit of an embankment down there. So, did you guys get, like, affected by the flooding, or not really, because you're higher up?
Yeah, we're 60, 70 feet off of the average river
Yeah.
level up here.
Yeah.
So for us, the flooding is a natural part of being riverfront. I know it wasn't true for everyone. There were folks who were impacted far worse than that. But for us, it was the wind.
All right, so just interviewed Kanuchi. Do you want to introduce yourself and your role at WRI?
Hi, I'm Brandon Hughes. I'm the facilities manager.
I see. And then we're headed toward some areas that have damage. Do you want to tell me about that?
Here's one area that got damaged. This is our outdoor classroom.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of damage right here because part of the tree fell onto the roof.
You said like up there's some damage.
You can see this. Well, come over this way. You can see the damage, the broken beam under here, and you can see the
Okay, I am filming. So you mentioned that tree all the way up there broke down, not just on the top of the structure, but like all the way down over here?
Yes. The top of that tree had a fork in it, and so half of the tree fell and broke the outdoor classroom, and the other half fell down here onto our native plant garden.
Oh, wow. Probably should not step on the native plant garden. But, yeah. Okay, so biochar.
And then, so it was a mix of trees that broke halfway up the trunk, and then some other trees just tipped over at the roots. So all of those trees were having to just cut up and either chip the wood into chips that we can use for mulch in the community garden, or some of the limbs will burn in a biochar kiln, and that's essentially just a big metal fire pit that we burn the limbs, and it burns really hot. We can burn up all of these limbs, not the big trunk wood, but just the limbs, and then once it's burned to char, we douse it with water to capture that char, so it doesn't burn to ash. We just keep the charcoal, and then we can use that as garden amendments, soil amendments for garden beds, and it's really nice and porous, so it holds moisture and holds microbacteria. So we can turn all of this tree fall into, well, wood chips are useful for mulch, and then the biochar is also useful as a soil amendment.
The best way to enjoy a cold dunk in the water is with a warm, fresh, hot slice of pizza, which I got to talk to a business owner about.
Yes, my name is Tara. I own the Leavenworth Pizza Company. I have had it since 2019, right before COVID.
Leavenworth Pizza Company, as well as outsiders' perspective of Leavenworth and resident struggles, began far before the flooding and windstorms, Tara said.
I feel like it was a lot of every day was a new surprise.
Yeah.
And it really did start with that unfortunate murder in the Cascades, which cut down all access to Icicle, which is a main tourism destination in the spring. There's hiking, rock climbing, and it was completely cut off. Blocks were put up, and of course the media really just terrified people coming.
While it wasn't that long that her business was closed, no one seemed to realize that, which Tara said was in large part due to certain places' media coverage.
It just made it sound like we couldn't get here and we were underwater. I don't know how many people came that were like, wow, I thought you were like underwater. And it's like, because they just showed the most dramatic pictures, which
yes, of course.
We had some dramatic flooding, but it wasn't, people were thinking they were going to row through Front Street, and it was like, no, there's no water downtown. No. Yeah, and it was a bad storm, but we're used to the harshness of the environment here. We're a mountain town. We're used to snows and windstorms. And I think they got us up running as quickly as possible. I mean, PUD was out until we were up and running, but...
Those misconceptions continued. While the restaurant was ready to serve pizza, like this lovely Hawaiian pizza you can see Marco excited in April to eat, people weren't coming because they thought there was, like I said, nothing to come to.
And then one of the things that really blew up on the social media page was don't know who it was came to town, but they reported that Christmas was canceled. Mm-hmm. And all that happened was that they turned off the lights because they didn't want a power surge when they turned everything on. And I saw people saying Christmas is canceled, we're canceling our reservations, the lights won't be on, and it's no, the lights are going to be on. We just had a storm. We're trying to get people power back before we light the Christmas trees. And that, I mean, a lot of people were saying that they almost didn't come because they heard Christmas was canceled, and it was like, it really just misrepresented the town, and it really affected businesses.
Business didn't slow down just in the end of December 2025, but for months.
I can say just based off of the sales, the traffic, and how many people I have staffed where I used to have double can tell me right there how much of a difference the seasons have been for me.
Yeah.
With less people to eat pizza or even aware of what was actually happening, sales were slow, and this affected staff.
No, it definitely is. I typically have a team about 22, and right now I have 12. So half of what I usually have on staff, because that's the difference in business we have right now. And the people that I do have are all working 40 hours, don't hire anyone, work us all until we can get there, because everybody's still playing catch up to cover their bills. And they all were impacted by missing those hours and missing those busy shifts, because December is where we make a lot of our money.
No, exactly,
and losing those hours and missing, and Christmas, you're also putting a lot of money into your family and the holidays that time of year. So, planning that and then not expecting to get the return that you usually do in December was really catastrophic for now, when we do have slow season that we are prepared for. You can only do so much without your team, but when you can't offer your team a lifestyle or a position, it's hard to run your business too. So it's a two-way street, and it makes you feel terrible, because you didn't open a restaurant to let everybody down.
No, yeah.
and here I am with people that have been super supportive and grateful and wonderful and part of my team since I opened, and I can't give them what they deserve. And
when Tara talks about the busy season in December, this is far more customers than just a full house restaurant all day.
It's down to the light, and we never had a line. We had empty restaurants at times. As far as the power going out, everything had to be thrown away. There wasn't anything you could save. So no, and we make a lot from scratch, so it wasn't like we could just open up the can and open. And I still had people that couldn't even get to work because of the storm. I had power lines laying over my house even after the storm was over, so I couldn't even leave. So some of us were even stuck not being able to get to work to get up and running.
Another hurdle was insurance reimbursement, but Tara said that her insurance agent Jason was instrumental in making sure that her business got the insurance coverage that she needed.
Well, insurance is they never just want to give you money. But I luckily have a great insurance agent, and he wrote in a lot of things that most people don't think about into my insurance. Liberty actually told me they were really impressed with how he wrote my plan, because there are a lot of things that you don't really think about during, writing it as far as a storm. And so we had some catastrophic emergency worked into it. Didn't get a lot back, but what I did get back, I divided by the hours that the staff lost and was able to at least give them kind of a winter bonus that they weren't expecting, and I know they were grateful for. It wasn't enough to do much for me, but it was enough to cover everybody that stayed, and thanked them for, what we couldn't do. So I did get enough back that I was able to do.
In April, pricing food and figuring out what was fair for a menu price was still difficult. If prices are too high, people won't eat out. But if prices are too low, you don't make any money.
You're getting it at. It's a very complex. It's a complex system to price out a menu right now. I always joke about how I wish I could have market price on everything, but I'm just a pizza place, so it doesn't work. But you go out to these fancy restaurants where it's seafood and everything's at a market price, and it almost feels like you prefer it that way, because there was a point where I was paying people to eat Hawaiian pizzas because we had a tariff on fruit, and the pineapple was so expensive to get, tripled in price.
Dang.
Because
crazy.
we were in tariffs over fruit, which
Tara is very grateful for her staff and appreciates the residents of Leavenworth. She cares deeply about the town and wants local businesses to succeed. So she hopes that more people support businesses.
If it's family outside of town, they can get gift cards. If it's in town, pick one place a week to get a coffee or buy a gift. Even stopping in to support people, or if you're on social media sharing posts. A lot of people do specials and midweek advertising to get people in for like Taco Tuesdays and happy hours. So just even sharing it on social media, because
So that was a business, but let's bring to light another resident whose property was affected. That is Pat Fromm. He has generational connections in the area of owning this land.
Yeah, I'm a Fromm, and my great-grandfather was a Brisky.
Mm-hmm.
And they homesteaded this property back in 1885.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, they'd lived in Alabama, moved to Bickleton, Washington. That's down by Yakima.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then 2 years later, they moved out here, and the Brisky brothers settled in Kashmir, and then my great-grandfather settled here. And so that's where the roots started growing. And then my great aunt, I don't know if it's great aunt or grand aunt, but at any rate,
I think it's great, yeah.
Yeah, she actually lived in this home. And my wife and I moved into this home shortly after we were married. That's been over 50 years ago.
It wasn't Pat Fromm's home that was affected, but rather his fields, which is a form of commerce for him because he raises cattle there and has for a long time.
And I was fortunate enough to get a job teaching school. And I taught my whole career here in Leavenworth and Cascade. And then I retired and got busy out here and built some fences, did some things that wasn't going to be able to do while I was in school.
Yeah.
And but I got that done, and then all through my teaching career, I supplemented my salary by having a small cattle herd here on the place.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And more recently, I have gone and I've purchased some steers in the spring and sold them in the fall. And that saved me having to worry about wintering a bunch of cows.
Pat Fromm was kind enough to let me film the parts of his property which had been affected by the flooding, which is, just his fields. Which, the fields, though, it's not just one field, they're pretty extensive.
A lot of debris. And you'd probably have to cut them up a little bit to get them in, but yeah, that's a shame. My dad and I built this system of irrigation. That was 25 years ago, I guess. Stuff that washes up that is something you could use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see there's an old ladder over there. I don't know that I'd get on it, but somebody lost a ladder in the deal. But, up there was brought on by the flood. All this up here is flood. That's flood.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of that little beach is where a lot of tubers like to stop.
Yeah. I have a brother who passed away probably 30 years ago. And he used to come down here and read his Louis L'Amour. And so I went to Wenatchee, got a plaque made, and after he passed, and I put it on that log right there. You see that green thing? Well, that log was way over by some trees.
Oh, it moved.
Yeah,
you had to put it back.
Robert put it back there. And it just is a little reminder of my brother.
No, for sure. It's good to keep your family in mind. It's okay, guys. Walking around Pat Fromm's fields in early July, there was still plenty of evidence of the floods. Pat Fromm provided an update saying things were mostly as they were when I first visited in April. He said that it's getting harder for him physically to be able to do the work that is needed to clear up the fields, and he doesn't want to expect his extended family to clean up the fields when they have to make a living in the valley for their family, which he said isn't the easiest thing to do. It's in the younger generation's ballpark, he said, but like he mentioned, he really doesn't want to force anyone to do anything. Stuff like tearing down the old wheel line, just that will take a really long time, and getting rid of all of the debris. So the future of Fromm's Field is to be seen. I drove 70 minutes back up to Index in the dark to try to capture the sunrise, which I at least got most of. While there were people out and about, even in early morning after it had gotten light, some things hadn't changed, like Index Galena Road was still closed. The gate is locked, no way to get in. Driving down, I couldn't help but think how integral the Highway 2 connection is to bring tourism to Leavenworth. And even though that highway was long open when I visited in April, it was a ghost town. Like, absolutely no one was there. I've always seen people when I grew up and as a young adult in Leavenworth, and then when I visit all times of year in Leavenworth. But it was such a ghost town. Luckily, now in July, things are looking up. We're seeing a lot more traffic this 4th of July weekend compared to April. It's already heading into Monday evening, where normally there'd be a lot less traffic, and there's plenty of traffic to come. So I also, saw a lot more people earlier this weekend, but there's still people out and about a Monday after a holiday weekend, which is a good sign. Downtown may not be filled to the brim with pedestrians, but for a Monday, it's decent, and it's loads better than the ghost town a few months ago that I saw and that others echoed. I talked to one of those visitors about what it was like to be in town this sunny July.
My name is Rachel, and I am from Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Yeah. And then tell me about why you decided to visit there.
We came for a family camping trip up Ice Creek.
And how have you enjoyed town so far? And you mentioned that town's there's less people than you're used to.
Yes, it was really nice. I like that. Yeah, we just came to town to actually watch the World Cup game and then head back out to camping. So we just have camping nearby.
Nice. And so is Leavenworth a place you regularly visit?
Every once in a while. We used to live in Seattle, so we would come up here mostly for camping around here. Beautiful rivers and hikes, and then so just come into town for food and stuff.
And what's been your favorite part?
In town, my favorite part is the river and the hikes.
No, for sure, the river's gorgeous.
Yeah, and just the mountains.
Just a short walk from downtown was the Wenatchee River Institute campus and nearby River Park, where you could still see evidence of the biochar project. Executive Director Canucci Terranelli provided an update.
In terms of how much biochar we were able to produce, I think the best way to estimate it is by the size of the piles that were burned.
Now we're going to measure the other side.
2 kilns across the property. Each one captured a pile of debris that was equivalent to maybe 2 outdoor classrooms. So I'd say 4 outdoor classrooms worth of debris that was pulled out of a pile and put into this biochar kiln. Remaining on site are the bigger chunks of wood that we can't easily biochar. So, there's probably half, maybe 1 outdoor classroom's worth of rounds that are too big to biochar and too awkward to split into firewood that we're still working on processing. The total cost estimate for damages from the windstorm is kind of hard. What I have is an estimate for the repairs, which is going to come to just over $500,000 on the red barn and the outdoor classroom. That work will start at the beginning of August and hopefully be wrapped up before October starts. Our campus is coming back together. We have one more project we're working on in the next couple of weeks to repair a big hole that was left behind when one of our big Doug firs tipped over right next to the river house, and we'll be working on that in the next week or two. If anybody sees this film and really wants to come out and pitch in.
Are you excited for the work party, buddy? Excited? I don't know how it gets better than this. You take my hand and drag me head first. And I don't know why, but with you I dance in a storm in my best dress, fearless. Tara provided an update that Leavenworth Pizza Company had normal business as of now. Not crazy busy, not crazy slow. And she said that her insurance didn't fully cover every single loss of the disasters, but her insurance agent got her back as much as possible. It's currently a normal start to summer. Well, see where I did my jumping before. It's too busy to get footage, which I guess is good. Do you like swimming, Kitty? You like swimming? You wanna go swimming? Christina provided an update by text that their contractor has been working hard at getting their home rebuilt. She said they should be able to move in to the new and improved cottage by August. Okay, so I was thinking I'll just get a short amount of you guys talking and then maybe a close-up, or not close-up, but of like the out celebration where both visitors and locals were. There was food and plenty of booths that showed about families who had historical roots in Leavenworth, as well as fun things for everyone to do, and a light show at the end. I was able to catch up with a classmate I graduated with, Carla Sarabia.
Hi, my name is Carla Sarabia. I was born and raised here in Leavenworth, Washington, and I currently reside here as well.
And then you guys have kind of a booth about your family history.
We do.
What made you decide to do that?
Yeah, so my dad currently is part of the Leavenworth Rotarians. He's lived here for closer to 40 years, and he's always found his way in involving himself in the community. And so when the opportunity came about to talk about the first founding families of the Leavenworth Valley that immigrated here, they offered us the opportunity for a booth, and we took it. And so here today we're presenting my dad's story of immigration coming into the United States, his life in the valley, what he built, and the way he gets back.
Right, and you said he kind of was one of the, I think you said, first Latino.
He was, yes. So when my father first migrated here to the United States, the first place he came to actually was Leavenworth. So he's never lived in any other state or any other city that hasn't been Leavenworth. And he was among the first Latinos here in the valley.
I explained to Carla why I brought my cat along and how she ties in to December. No, yeah, for sure. And then I have my little kitty cat here because, like I said, I was over in Colfax where there wasn't really flooding. It wasn't that bad. But there were storms across the state, and I rescued this little girl like about a week before it happened. And without that, she might not be here. So she's kind of a symbol of rebirth. So I hope you appreciate her.
I know she did. I love that you're taking her out and about. See, you got rescued. That's all.
Well, that's about it. So,
yeah. No, awesome. No, that's all what rescue's about.
Yes, for sure.
collaborative, community-minded, and increasingly confident in the idea that ordinary people should shape their own destiny.
This has been The Day the Christmas Lights Stopped, directed by Erin Mullins, filmed by Erin Mullins, with also a lot of help from other people. Thank you to everyone who I interviewed. Thank you to everyone who provided images and footage. Thanks to the community and all. I'd like to note that I did interview the mayor and city administrator, but it didn't fit in this, so it will be available on a later date as its own segment.